In a galaxy not far, far away, but in a whole separate universe resides the Iron Kingdoms, a world ravaged by war and conflict, dominated by magic and arcane forces. Warjacks and Warbeasts clash for tactical supremacy on the battlefield. Our story begins with the Signar Gravediggers warcaster Major Grant Vargas, a veteran of countless cold and brutal campaigns. He is ever ready to assert dominance on the battle.
Hey everyone, Isaac here and welcome back to another painting video. Hope you enjoy the intro. It was a fun one to make. Kind of ties into the whole theme we're going on with today. This video is the first to tackle my Gravediggers army in the scheme you selected a few months back. The winning vote was the image here. This is a cool, it takes a lot of inspiration from the Snowtroopers, and then the color scheme, like the paint style, was Grimdark, Trench Dark. I've never done Grimdark before. I found this video from my favorite painters, Ninjon, as you probably know who he is. Pretty cool painter. He did a Grimdark thing about a year or two ago, and he was using these Villainy inks in that. And I was like, that's really cool. I'm gonna go out and buy these myself and try them out. And then you'll see how this turned out today. He definitely did a much better job of me overall. This is my first time doing that. Grimdark style and a lot to learn from it. But let's get into how I took the alt sculpt of Vargas, mushed a cool head onto him that fits my theme better, and then painted it. Stay tuned at the end, I'll even show you how I make my own snow texture paste. Feel free to skip around, and chapters are below and with the majority of the steps broken out. Starting out with my mini factory version of Vargas, I really liked his swagger per se that he has. I got the gun up, he's like, I'm cooler than you. Then he's got the cigar in this hand, it's just a little something to take the edge off. And I liked it, but I was like, there's no way he's just gonna be barefaced in the freezing tundra that I'm planning to put him in. So I took another head from one of the other projects that I have been I have some files for, and I just simply overlaid it, and you can see in the video that's playing right now is how I overlaid it in Mesh Mixer, and then just exported it to a printer, and off to the printer it went. Now the basing, I wanted to do something different. I thought about using the toppers for these, but they did not look wintry enough for me. And for those without printers, this would be a good tutorial about how I made the trench bases. And you can use this on Trench Crusade, you can use this on any other game system that uses trenches, and in this case, the Signar Gravediggers trenchers. And to stick with the whole theme here, we're starting out with coffee stir sticks that you can get on Amazon for a few bucks or plenty of them, and they will last you armies worth. Because you're gonna cut them down to size. I would get 3 or 4 bases out of one stick. And then we can take the edges with our clippers, and we're actually gonna be splitting the ends to resemble wood more that's spread out or cracked from the water seeping into it. And I laid out a few of them next to each other because I didn't really want to crowd the base too much, because I wanted to resemble the ground has settled and the wood is fitting in, and then the mud is filling out the spaces in between. And you can see I started with an Elmer glue PVA glue base, and that's how I attached everything. And then once you get the wood attached to the spots that you want it, covering as much as you want, I actually dipped the whole model into coffee grounds. Make sure if you're gonna do this, you bake them first to dry them out, get all the moisture out of it. But it's a little bit more coarse than your standard sand that you see on miniatures, and I think it adds a fun texture. It's also just something silly I like to do. Don't be afraid if it gets so all over the place and into up onto the feet. It's that's kind of okay, because in the case of a dirty, muddy trencher, he's going to be covered in dirt and be just in the thick of it, trying to not die from the battle. So that's what we're going for, a really worn out look. And it kind of adds all together. It's gonna, even any small mistakes you make in the beginning kind of add to the whole character of the model as we grow and build and paint into it. And as you can see here, we're getting into the basing, but I primed with a black prime and a zenithal up top just to kind of establish where the shadows were gonna be. So as we're doing this underspray technique, and we get into that universal shadow, I know where to place my underspray, and the goal here is just to cover up anywhere that was black. Starting out with P3 Battlefield Brown, and that's going to be our universal shadow for the whole model. Moving on to the main armor color here, since it's a white, you never paint white with white, but I also needed this coat to be as bright as we can, because as we add the enamel washes later, they're gonna really dull down that bright color we have, so we want to start out as bright as we can. So I used AK Off-White as my main color here. Spraying top down for the model, just letting that kind of take over the model and reapply the white armor base that we want, and let the Battlefield Brown sit in the dark recesses and leaving that in the darkest of shadows. This next step is the last step before we get into the start of the show for the weathering, and this is going to be, which is going to be the enamels. For now, all we're going through is and blocking out the individual colors and getting the base coats established, just so we can have an idea of where colors are. Leaving that brown, the Battlefield Brown, in the darkest of shadows, no matter what the color are, even on the gun, and the gun is rubber black, but even in those like darker, the downward facing recesses, we're leaving that brown just to have that universal like cohesion throughout the whole model. Anywhere there's cloth, we're hitting with a 50-50 mix of Jackbone and Devout White, just to get that middle, like off bright khaki color. I don't know how to describe it, but like this is the color I needed. So I picked two colors, mixed the one because I needed the middle tone. And we're doing thin coats here, so I thinned it a little bit more than I probably needed to, but I really wanted to get smooth coverage and even coverage across all the belts, the pouches, and any like sack that he has hanging off of him, because we're not going to highlight this, which seems weird, but like the enamel washes are going to do enough detail work that I am happy with it, and we want to have good coverage here so it saves us time later. The secondary armor color that we're going with is German Gray from AK. The metal is Boiler Black from P3. Really liking the P3 metallics so far. They've been really easy to work with. So now we can get into the new paint that I get, like the new paint that I get to tour around and mess with. These are from Grimdark and Penningham. If you haven't seen them, they have some really awesome paint tutorials that are far better than what I could ever even hope to make. But they have a great reference. If you ever want to get into that style, they have tons of information out there. Letting the model dry for a few hours, because this is an enamel paint, so you want to make sure the acrylic's fully cured. And make sure you have your mineral spirits here, because you use that to thin these down and not just water. So I start out with Goon's Grime. I can talk today, I swear. Take some of my mineral spirits. I wanted to start thinner than I anticipated, because I can always add more paint later. I wanted to see how it acted and realized it was thin when I did the 50-50 mix of it instead. So I added a few more drops and probably like a 2-to-1 mix of paint to spirits. Placing this on the model as a recess shade, letting the enamel flow and run under the creases of the model. Like, that's the whole benefit of enamels. We're gonna let it do the work for us. We're just gonna poke it in a corner and it's gonna run across the model. Next, I took some of the black enamel, A Core of Death, and I wanted this to be a little stronger. So I put this into a separate cup by itself and then used the thin Goon's Grime before and mixed that in. So I pulled a brush full of that over to the A Core of the Damned, and then I used that as a thinned and used that to thin it. And I ended up applying this all over the model because I really liked this like black with a hint of brown, like grunge. So I ended up being the main grit of the model. Throwing it all over and including the base as well. Darken the model, and this is why we started so bright, as it was going to get brought down a few steps here. And that's like the whole thing. You start bright and the enamels can bring it down a few layers. So once you've applied them, you usually, I waited around 15-20 minutes, got up, made a cup of coffee, walked around, got some steps in. Using mineral spirits and a Q-tip with a swirling and pulling down motion, I am pulling away the excess from the highest areas, letting it pull down as if it was dripping down. Play around with it. If you think you pulled off too much, you can always go back and add some more and work it around. The best part about enamels is there's a long working time, I mean like hours, so you can use that to get as gross or grimy as you want. So now that the first pass is done, we're going to go back in with Sector Rust. Putting in all the corners of the metals and the dots on the armor, this is a step that really starts to pull all the grime together, if you ask me. I'm using this with no thinning directly onto the spots I want, and in small, tiny spots. A little bit goes a long way here into the overall effect. I also put it in the lower parts of the gun to simulate snow getting kicked up, or if he set the gun down. The idea is the gun is mostly all black and not to pull away from the model, but I think the rust is just enough to break up the color and add some variation to it. All right, home stretch here. Stay with me. We're about 2 hours in and in a good spot. Only thing left is some details like the eyes, some highlights to establish the edges of things, and then the glow effect. Starting with the eyes, the model didn't print too much with definition here, so kind of freehanding these. Taking Morrow White from P3, doing horizontal brush strokes to build up the shape of an eye, then vertical brush strokes to apply the pupil. My head is kind of in the view, and you can see like the shape of my bald dome in there, because I'm using magnifying lenses to get this close, and like the depth of field is like 4 inches. It's like your standard like Amazon like magnifying glasses, and you got to be really close. And then where I am on camera, I had to be close, and I was like, yeah, you get it, yeah. On to the leather, Beast Hide, which is this one right here. We have a selection and it was not up here. Using this paint to just make tiny scratches and highlights in random directions on all the spots most viewable from the tabletop. You don't need to do everything here. The idea is to build variation in the direction of it to add like, oh, the leather's scuffed up. Highlighting white is just a symbol. We're picking out the topmost edges with Morrow White from P3, that's already on our palette from the eyes, and just making them pop. Goal here is to make them stand out so you can tell where an armor plate starts and ends and where the next one begins, but not really much more. Now, to add some more texture to the white, we take a tiny bit of sponge and spot it on the whites just to mix up the larger panels and more spots. Treat it like a dry brush, take most of the paint off to avoid big globs like sticking on the model and really like throwing off the effect of like just battle damage. For highlighting the silver, I use the beautiful paint that is Cold Steel. And the idea here is you're not doing a lot because like the metal is already there, and you're on the bullets, all I did was a single line just to draw like that line of reflection across it, and then going over to the exhaust ports, I did that single line on it as well, and then pulled a little bit away off of that single line. Let's quickly knock out the emblems with a simple Thalmar black and a highlight of Morrow White. It's a big jump for a logo, but my goal is for it to be a two-tone logo, and having that big jump kind of helps that color break up quickly without a lot of effort. For the shoulders and gun, I'm using the same color highlight. It's Great Coat Gray with a little bit of the Morrow White we had left over on our palette. On the gun, I'm doing similar to what we did with the leather, small thin lines of paint in just random directions to add like lines of scratching or scuffing or placing the gun down, just typical like wear and tear. And then on the shoulder armor, I'm doing the same edge highlights that we did the white armor and including a sponge effect on the large open panel that we have just to break up that flatness. All right, the second most fun part has arrived. We are on to the glow. Starting out with Morrow White to place in the areas we want to glow that bright glowing red. And then followed up with Color Red, which is like a really punchy, vibrant red. We just place that into all the recesses, and then there's our main color. It's that simple. Now I'm attempting to do some kind of the glow effect here, like there is enough energy coming off this, there is a glow onto the armor. I'm attempting to do some red glow here, so I thin down the Cador Red a bunch, almost to what I think is a glaze, and run it along the edges of the outside of the glow, and to the nearest surface areas that the glow would be reflecting off of if it was just a slight glow and that was very close to it. Think if you'd put your flashlight on low and then put it near a wall, you'd paint that little bit of the wall. Final step for the glow is to take the Morrow White back and just do little dots inside the red to make it feel more energized and zazzy, because we're zazzy people here. And as we all do with our miniatures, the only way to finish them properly is with a proper base. So we've already done the browns, which were done with some speed paints from AK, using dark leather on the wood. So we skipped over it earlier, but as we painted the bases, we actually used some AK of the new AK speed paints. We used brown black on the wood, and we used dark leather. I literally looked them up because I had to remember what I used. onto the dirt and the wood. That's what we use just for a quick foundation of colors. Where this mostly going to get covered up by snow, which is where actually we're about. So I skipped over it earlier, but the colors we used on the base were AK dark leather and AK brown black. Still getting used to, I'm using the new speed paints, I'm trying them out. Still getting used to all the names of them. So use their speed paints just to get a quick like base color, because most of it's going to get covered by snow, and the parts that aren't are going to get covered by a frost effect. But not everyone has texture paints or likes to use them. I get that. And for me, I do like using them, but the local store that carries the brand I like and the colors I like is 2 hours away. And I didn't have time to make the 2 hours trip away and all that stuff. So I pulled a trick from the olden times of hobbying. I mixed white craft paint, because we're gonna do a whole army. We can't be using our nice fancy white paint. And then I mixed that with the equal mix of like white glue and snow flock. Any snow flock will do. And then you get this kind of mush as you mush, like slush, depending on how much white paint you put into it. And then you just take that you treat it like a texture paint. You slap it around and you cover as much as you would want here. And the trick here is, while it's still wet, you take the snow flock without any mixture and you just sprinkle that on top like snow had freshly fallen. Paint from AK, it's called a frost effect, and it crystallizes on things and I bought it at Adepticon. I still hadn't had a chance to use it, and I said, finally, this is the time to use it. So, as you can see here, the heavier you apply it, the more crystallized it's gonna get, and the longer it's gonna take to dry. This did take like an hour to dry. But I applied this to the wood, any areas that didn't have snow, like the sides of the concrete and stuff, because if there's no snow on it, we're still in the frozen tundra. It's gonna be really cold. And then you can go as heavy or as light on this you want. You can do less snow, more frost effect. Go crazy here, do whatever you want, whatever fits your aesthetic more for what you're going for here. And after a quick rimming of the base, but that's it, we're done. This model totaled out to be about 4 to 5 hours of work. And honestly, most of that can be cut down from just me experimenting with the colors here and just trying to figure out how I wanted to paint the first model of my new army. I really like this look, and I really want to thank y'all picking this scheme. It was really ended up being quick, easy, and fun to do. And that is like the trifecta of what you want out of miniatures. You want something that you enjoy doing. You want something that is quick enough you can apply it to a whole army, because this is not a competition army. And you want something that's fun. That's why we all do this. We want fun things to paint. So this is only the part 1 of the video series. Part 2 will be going over how I paint the rest of these 50 points that I've planned out to paint. It includes 2 units of Mage Hunter Rangers, or 2 units of Gun Mages, a unit of Rangers, 2 airdrops, Argo Brock, Beefcake, because I have to paint him, and a Trollkin Sniper. So if you have any questions about how I did Vargas with any of these colors here, feel free to drop them below, and I will cover them in the next video along with some more fun tricks that I've learned along the way for these guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you found something to use for yourself in this video. And if you want to see more of my work in progress between videos, be sure to join our Discord link below or on my main channel. It's called the Hobbynomicon. It's run by me and my friend Matt. He's an awesome dude. He has tons of knowledge. He's a fantastic painter. I go to him when I need advice, and he always gives me the real answer of, no, that's stupid, or no, that's correct. Lots of cool other cats in there, though. Be sure to join and show us what you're working on. Calling out my buddy Shaw, who I sent the invite to and never joined. They always have good ideas, but I don't know why they haven't joined. Come on, Shaw. Don't be like Shaw. Join the server. If you like today's video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Currently aiming for bi-weekly videos and updates on my armies. Y'all are awesome. I hope you have a great one. I'll see you next time. See ya. I said see you twice. All right, bye-bye.